Welcome to Resilience Radio. I'm Urban Eisenberg, host of the show, owner of Resilience Occupational Therapy. As always, the opinions on this show are not necessarily shared by me or Resilience Occupational Therapy. I like to feature a variety of different perspectives, and not everything will fit everyone's healthcare needs. Additionally, none of this is meant to be medically prescriptive or diagnostic in any way. I'm in the middle of working on an interview that I did with Noël Groves, who is an herbalist who has written a book about sleep. That book is not published yet, and I'm planning on releasing that episode in another couple of months. In any case, there are a couple of snippets that did not fit into that main episode that I think were some really interesting standalone conversations that came up. Today's episode is a conversation about sleep and dementia.
Could you speak a little bit to dementia and sleep?
Yeah, so dementia and sleep do seem to be very closely linked, dementia and sleep problems. And we have seen a lot of studies showing that when people have more issues around dementia or other types of cognitive neurological issues, that people end up with more dysregulated sleep, but also not sleeping well can aggravate those neurological states because our body and our brain does a lot of its work at kind of cleaning out the crud and refreshing and revitalizing and resetting while we sleep. And so there's a big interplay. One can cause one and vice versa, but there's also that interconnection, kind of like with pain as well. Those different components of neurological well-being and sleep quality can be interlinked. So it may be worth getting a neurological workup, especially if you are concerned about any cognitive or neurodegenerative states. However, sometimes just simply supporting sleep and figuring out what's disrupting sleep, maybe it's the sleep apnea, maybe it's the blood sugar, maybe it's stress, but whatever those things are, sometimes those components and then supporting the sleep quality, you'll find a dramatic improvement in people's day-to-day cognitive well-being. And we do know that supporting sleep quality can help with people's cognitive well-being and a variety of age groups. It's not always working with elders and dementia. It could also be, say, working with somebody with long haul COVID or chronic Lyme who is having some neurological impacts and brain fog, as well as also having sleep disruptions. So really supporting our brain with a lot of our nootropic and brain supportive herbs, as well as helping to support sleep, as well as looking at other things that we didn't even discuss, like nutrient deficiencies or whatever may be at play. All of those things might be part of the overall picture. And once you address that, we may see that some of those cognitive issues start to go away, or at least that their progress may slow down. But some studies have even shown reversal of age-related cognitive decline by taking a whole body, holistic approach that includes supporting our sleep and our sleep-wake cycles. And folks who had to quit work because they didn't have the cognitive capacity to do it anymore were actually able to go back to work and regain some of those cognitive capacities once they took a very whole body approach that included addressing some of the things that were disrupting their sleep, which is pretty cool because in the past, we just viewed this as a one-way street of downhill. And, there really may be a lot more to that, including looking at our sleep quality and supporting that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about we tend to think of older adults as needing less sleep, which is not necessarily even at all true. But often they're getting less sleep. And a primary culprit of that is side effects of medications and having to wake up to go pee.
Yeah. And adding to that complexity too is that, it is true. And most often that's not the case, but occasionally sleep disruptions might be one of the first symptoms of a neurological state. So if things aren't responding to our typical sleep support remedies, it might be worth just kind of getting things checked out just to make sure, because the earlier we catch things, the better we can be at managing and slowing their progress oftentimes. But oftentimes it is just simply a sleep thing, and supporting sleep can be really, really helpful. So I don't want to make people panic, but I just want to make folks aware that it's pretty complicated. Also, I want to make people aware that a lot of the pharmaceuticals that folks take for a variety of things, including sleep, can have neurological implications. And so if they are able to transition to a more holistic approach and working more with herbs, oftentimes that's going to be to the benefit of their cognition. They're going to want to work with their doctor, perhaps alongside an herbalist or a naturopath or a functional medicine practitioner to help with that transition. You should never go off of a medication without your doctor's guidance. And most of those medications are pretty addictive and need to be weaned off. But a lot of the medications that our elder populations are on do have neurological and sleep implications. And so addressing that might be a part of the picture. And so you may need to work with a specialist who is a doctor who works with elder care and is aware of those medications and how to support folks alongside somebody who supports holistic health and herbalism to help make some meaningful changes.
Yeah, and something that when we're talking about medications and significantly older adults that I just like for people to be aware of, and I'm not pretending to be a doctor and I don't know my pharmacology that well, but I do know that the older adults tends to be one research category, which usually consists of mostly people 65 to 70, representing those 65 to 120. And the difference between a 65-year-old's physiology and that of a 105-year-old's physiology is sort of night and day. So as people age, their medications the research doesn't necessarily support, or we don't necessarily know how people's systems are going to react as they're getting older, because they're not actually the ones who are being researched on for good reasons. So just something that I like to put out there when we're discussing medications in older adults.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If so, you can always subscribe to the podcatcher of your choice and get a new interview every week. If there are any particular guests you're hoping to have on the show or conversations you'd like to hear me have, I'm always open to suggestions. So feel free to reach out to me at irvin.eisenberg@gmail.com. Today's music was brought to you by Aaron Marcus with their tune, Some Biological Process. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.